So let's jump into it. I'm super curious to hear more about your organization and about Change the Lights. And I finally made it over to your Instagram today. I hunted it down, and I know you're kind of
Nice.
keeping it secret for now. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to share that with people yet. I know it's still like a little baby, like a little seedling. So
It is. It's growing and I'm still growing it. And yeah, I was just on a call earlier today with a couple of friends. We were talking about uh, jumping in, like the launching of projects, businesses, whatever it is that is brewing. And this analogy of kind of being on like a rock, like you're about to jump into the water and you're kind of like 1-2 in it for like a long time, just not fully taking the plunge and sitting on top there just thinking a lot about it. And yeah, I've been trying to move away from that. This is the first iteration to this scale I've done, and curating a bunch of social media is a lot of planning, a lot of content. And yeah, I see myself kind of hesitating on like broadcasting that out to everybody before I feel like it's perfect or whatever
I
that
think we
name is.
all we all do that a good bit, but I know that you're committed to bringing this thing to life, so I know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And
Thank
so
you.
just to start with your mission statement, I heard it on that podcast you sent me yesterday of you. Can you repeat it for us?
Yeah. So Change Lights for me feels like being who we are and who we want to be and seeing that take place in the world around us. Really taking ownership and authorship of not only the lives that we lead, but the collective lives and societies and cultures that we're a part of. And bringing that to light through a lot of fun, a lot of creativity, and a lot of collaboration.
That's a
So that's
beautiful
kind of
mission
the ethos of
statement.
it.
And then
Yeah.
there's kind of the concrete part of what that looks like, and it has something to do with making partying productive. What was that part?
Partying for the purpose of progress.
Partying for the purpose of progress. That's the mission statement that really stuck for me. And I
Yeah.
love that. Like
Yeah.
we have we have done that
We have
a
done that.
bit here in the Bay Area and had some really fun experiments bringing people together with music and ecology and um, dancing and all that juicy stuff. Because I always think about this when it comes to any sort of movement. They say like culture follows the art.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm so caught up in growing the plants, and that's where a lot of my creativity goes, and working with foraging and the earth and all that. And there's a certain amount of artfulness to it, but I always sort of envision this like bigger scale of ecological restoration happening around us. Like literally, we've talked about this a lot, having like hundreds, if not thousands of people together, like when you go to a transformational festival, and having people actually doing something restorative for the land,
Yeah.
because that's so much of what is the issue when it comes to festivals, is that people love the engagement,
Yeah.
the connection, but it's the waste of resources that goes into that, or just the stream of resources that goes into it, and
Yeah.
energy that kind of culminates in maybe some loose plans at the end, but it's not really anything on the ground. So yeah, curious where you see your organization plugging in with that kind of vision.
Totally. Well, that was really the the genesis of it. My interest in events started. They started when I went to my first festival, and or even concerts, like really any gathering where I just felt absolutely invigorated and inspired. With a bunch of other people in the same setting. And yeah, going to music festivals and feeling that energy arise and then almost kind of like not know what to do with it. Like I was just buzzing around, having great connections and things like that, but it felt more like a stamp rather than a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely like wading through, ankle deep trash coming out of them was rough. And the spark of Change Lights actually happened when I was in Australia this last time, doing sustainability for a conference. And going into depth of all the different pieces of how to bring people together from all over the world for the purpose of restoration of the oceans and inclusive of surfing culture. But what it looked like for that, like gathering itself to not only like not have a dramatic impact on the environment, but like what could we do that was actually going to benefit the environment, like after that conference was over. And that was amazing. That was the first time I'd gotten to dive that deep and look at all those logistics. And like, I had a conversation during that conference that I knew I was going to create Change the Lights, and that's what I wanted to do, was bring, these gatherings to just like the actionable qualities, like that we could be together in such amazing energy one another and like see that energy unfold before our eyes, and then know that that was really moving forward after the time that we spent together, and that that can be a normal way of, you know, coming together, just like music festivals have become, and sadly like the waste has become at them. But again, like we are like, we have the capacity to change that narrative. So that is something that I'm really excited to figure out how to do and to be a part of creating.
I'm so stoked to be on the cutting edge of that, the kind of crest of that wave with you,
Thank you.
because it's something that people talk about a lot when it comes to festival culture. And it really takes us like changing the narrative, like you were talking about, like being a part, like we know that we're a part of this story that's going on. And, you know, like we're going to be looked back on in history at some point, like, you know, all willing that the human race continues on, which I fully believe it will. And our actions can really have a ripple effect and kind of rewriting history in a lot of ways. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, a lot of it is I think the big topic right now is ecological restoration and
Yeah.
how to make that actually, you know, how to make our planet regenerative, or not how to make it regenerative, but how to engage with the regeneration that's already all around us, because the planet is inherently regenerative.
Exactly. It's really just about like getting ourselves back into alignment with the processes that are already here, and like, you know, seeing that we are also a living, breathing ecosystem in our society, and, you know, taking a deeper look at that, which is, I think, what's happening in this time that we're all in right now. There's a powerful pause that's happening, that we do have an ability to reflect on what we're doing and where we're going, and kind of what's happening inside of each one of us. So that, you know, there's been this huge analogy or consistent analogy around the butterfly and the cocoon, and that this is really our kind of time of cocooning and deconstructing a lot of stuff to emerge as butterflies. And I feel that in terms of when we're able to come back together again, how will we do that? And what's going to be the imprint and the quality of the time that we spend together? I think even I'm more grateful for just being able to be close to my loved ones, you know, like to be able to share space and appreciate proximity again. And what are the narratives that I really want to see flourish in the next year to 5 years to 10 to 20 years? Like, and for me, that is fun and music and creativity and art and earth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I mean, to kind of shift the gear a little bit, I was curious about the Global Wave Conference. And I knew a little bit about it when you were doing it. I didn't fully understand what it was, but like the oceans have been a big connecting point for you and I. For one, we've been
Mm-hmm.
fishing like multiple times at this point. Not you fishing, just to be clear, but me fishing, or wetting the hooks at least, not really catching any fish, but hanging out with Nichelle. Actually, we did catch a fish one time because Nichelle walked onto the dock right as me and all the guys were fishing, and her like really peaceful energy seemed to lure this fish onto our hook. So that was amazing. But anyways, the ocean is just like, yeah, there's something about it that I feel like really speaks to you, speaks to me, speaks to lots of people, right?
Yeah.
And I've been thinking a lot about that. Like, what is my role in all of this, to where I could be helping the ocean in particular, like such a sustainer of so much of our lives. So
Absolutely.
long
Yeah.
way of asking, like, can you speak a little bit more about that conference?
Totally. Yeah, the ocean is really a real place for me to understand more about our world and the connectivity to it. And yeah, I come to the understanding every time I'm there that like this water travels all over our globe. It's been everywhere. And it's a real current between each one of us, at every corner of the world that we live in. And one of the kind of catchphrases that I had for Global Wave Conference was one world, one wave, kind of like the global wave movement. So the purpose of the conference, it's the 6th conference that's been held, and it's held in a different part of the world every 2 years. So the last one is actually in Santa Cruz, California. And the purpose of it is to kind of collaborate surfing culture and ocean conservation and ocean sciences for the purpose of protecting surf breaks, bettering our relationship and understanding of the ocean that we are so consistently in, and to really come together as one world, to take care of our oceans. And so this one was on the Gold Coast of the East Coast of Australia. And yeah, it was hosted by the Gold Coast Surfing Reserve, and kind of curated by some old school surfers who've lived there for 40 years or something. And so there's this really amazing energy of that culture, of that relationship to the ocean for, personal and recreational and professional reasons. And it was inclusive of over 90 speakers from all over the world who have different hands in ocean conservation and research and development. So we had speakers who were like developing artificial reefs, creating legislation to protect surf breaks and give them actual rights. We had people who are talking about matriarchal societies of women from South Korea and Japan who are 85 plus years old and free diving for, shellfish and things like that. People who are talking about water quality. So there was such a breadth of information and just incredible people bringing incredible information to one another to educate us further on what our oceans are looking like and what the future of our oceans look like, with a real focus on surfing. And for me, like, yeah, it was, not only was it amazing to be a part of and like to help organize, the content was unreal. It was like 12 hours a day of just like back-to-back speakers, which was intense, but like, yeah, all of us were just scribbling in our notebooks to really try to soak up this information. And it was amazing to be a part of, that it feels like such a collective effort.
Yeah,
Understand more.
that's super inspiring. Like, I can just imagine like the amount of information that must have come from all of that, and to like know that there is some hope, that there are, like, I love that there are people out there who are working on this, even if this isn't my like direct line of action right now. um that's super inspiring to know that people are out there thinking about it. I didn't realize it was through that surfing perspective so much, but that's a deep culture that a
Yeah.
lot of people share.
Yeah.
And I love that about the old ladies out there getting down in the water and
Yeah.
free diving and foraging for their food. Like, that's what I'm just really stunned by every time I go to the ocean. It's just how much food there is in there, because I of course come to it as a forager. And um it's like it really helps you to engage with it though when you have some kind of relationship with it, that's deeper than just being like, oh, that's the ocean and that's pretty. It's like, people's food came from there. Like the land that we're on, this Ohlone land, like in Berkeley, California, is, I mean, those people relied on the oceans like crazy. That was a big part of what they ate, and some of them still do eat that. Some of the Ohlone that are still among us, but I mean, just the amount of like shells and um, shellfish and different foods that came out of there is tremendous. And then,
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't know if I was telling you this about the shell mounds that I recently learned.
I don't know.
You're talking, um, basically they say that the shell mounds, the things that they found in the East Bay, like, a couple of
Mm,
100 years ago when the Spanish settlers first arrived, there are these mountains of shells, right? There's been a lot of controversy about those historic native sites, and apparently those were used to fertilize oak trees. Like
mm.
those were actually fertilization hubs. um, and I love that about like how indigenous culture is so rooted in practicality. There's so much
Oh yeah.
spirituality to it, but so much practicality at the same time.
I mean, what I love is like they're not separate, like
Right.
it's really just about being in tune with what's happening and really being scientists of your environment, and that's something that I feel like is such a gift to tap into the wisdom that's in each one of us, and so incredibly in the indigenous cultures across the whole world. I mean, these are people and cultures, if we want to talk about cultural narratives, that really supported the investigation and understanding, and being in uh, a conducive relationship. And I think that there's so much to be learned right now when we see ourselves so out of that relationship, is to really appreciate the information and guidance that that can be found with the people who really did understand their land well enough to not only take from it but understand how to give back to it so that that cycle wasn't disrupted. um, and yeah, one of my favorite parts about that conference was watching every person walk to that mic with so much passion in their heart for why they were understanding that particular aspect of the ocean, or about surfing culture, or whatever it was they were speaking of. There was such a drive and pureness to why they were there, that it really just reminded me of how much we each have to share with one another, and how this is a collective effort. These are large scale situations we're talking about, and it's hard. At the conference there was a lot of really challenging information shared too. Like, I mean, a lot of us know the scale of how intensely the oceans have been impacted by our lifestyles. But still, it's just staggering to look at the numbers and to, listen to the people who are watching those effects happen firsthand. And it's a lot to digest. And so it really is, like you said, so inspiring. It's so helpful to know about all the things that are happening, all the progress that's being made. We don't often hear enough about that. And I think that we, again, it shapes our narrative of what we're looking at, which is like, humans as being this virus and being this uh, ill-suited component to the world. But we are also showing up, and there are so many of us who are showing up to do differently. And I think that that's really an important thing to know about what's happening there, because it gives us not only more information but more inspiration and hope for where we're going.
100%. Yeah, I love that you highlighted that part, because I hear that that's a big part of the ecotherapy work for me, is that we have this narrative going on that we're a parasite and that we're bad for the planet. And what I hear in that is just grief and sadness that people
Yeah.
have, and self-hatred in a way.
Yeah.
And so a big part of the work for me is like giving people a way of seeing that they can actually be improving their, like,
Yeah.
hands-on style, like planting a tree, like working in a food forest, like, tending to your native trees, and all these different things that we can be doing to actually help the planet, and let people see that I don't think that we're any kind of accident. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think that we're meant to be a parasite. It's just kind of how you shift around that relationship to Mother Earth. So really beautifully put. And what I keep thinking about, I don't know if you've heard of this guy, but there's a guy who's doing work with the oceans. It's called 3D ocean farming. You haven't heard of
Okay.
this guy?
I think so.
Oh, it's cool stuff. I've listened to him on a few different podcasts. Like, I don't have his name off the top of my head, but if anyone is interested and wants to look that up, 3D ocean farming. And he's basically like finding ways to produce massive amounts of food in the ocean, and basically like having these big nets set out that go all the way to the ocean floor, and then growing like mussels and seaweed and clams and like all these things that just grow really naturally in the ocean. But being able to produce like tons, like literally tons of food from really small patches of ocean,
Mm-hmm.
which is like, I mean, when you start thinking about factory farming and things that are producing like massive amounts of pollution and inadvertently destroying the ocean from
Yeah.
runoff, this is huge. And
Yeah.
plus, like ocean food is some of the most nutritious stuff that you can get.
Oh yeah.
The other kicker on that is that he's not having to put any sort of inputs into it. There's no fertilizers or anything. And then the real kicker of it too is that it helps to promote biodiversity around those farms. So it's actually
Mm-hmm.
helping the ocean to become more stable and like rebalancing those areas around the farm.
Yeah, for sure. It's the same that we see in ecosystem regeneration. You know, when you put one element of that back, it supports the next element that's interrelated to it to grow as well. And so that kind of domino effect is, I mean, it's really amazing because we don't have to recreate the entire system itself. We just have to, one, take out the things that are dismantling it, and then two, kind of like help support some of the fundamental aspects of it, and the rest will regenerate in a pretty incredible way. And the ocean is staggering all the time in what it can do, and in the life that is constantly teeming in it. And you're right, the quality that gives back to us when we're eating from the ocean. I mean, seaweed itself, like the amount of food, fuel, and resources that we can obtain from seaweed, which is an incredibly quick and abundantly growing plant, is staggering. It also takes out tons of carbon from the atmosphere. And there's just these like undercover epic moments that we can tap into that really address some of our very large scale problems with minimal impact, in a lot of ways. And I get so hyped on that. I think that's just, it really helps me vision this planet thriving, and us thriving with this planet, is learning about stuff like that.
Absolutely. And so with the pandemic and all this going on, like, is there any sort of second wave of the Global Wave Conference, or what are your next steps? Like, what are you excited about getting into?
Yeah. So the next Global Wave conference is scheduled for 2022. And there's been talk about it being in Brazil. Um, I mean, it's a great question in terms of how we're going to meet globally in the next coming years. But yeah, if I'm really stepping into it with my best imagining foot forward, I really see us cultivating not only like a gathering, another global wave conference where we come together to do this, but really a global movement where this becomes something that everybody can tap into without needing to travel to Brazil to attend the 4-day conference, but something that becomes quite accessible across the world. And it's actually something I think this pandemic is offering us, that there's greater ability we have to have greater reach when we can tap into the virtual aspect in the times when it makes sense to do that. So yeah, I mean, I would love to be a part of the next Global Wave Conference in some capacity, but what I'm doing with Change Lights right now really goes hand in hand in that, in the sense that not only do I want to help inspire people to be more connected to themselves, be more connected to each other, but inherently to the environments around them. Because like you were saying, like there's something really nourishing about us being able to be, just giving back to the environments that we're in and becoming a really beneficial partner. And so I would love to create more ocean experiences for people. That was one of the in-person events that I was planning before the whole thing took place, is to bring people to the ocean and to have kind of events that are oriented around just getting really connected and really imbibed and more educated about the ocean itself, but rather just outdoor environments in general. And yeah, I think that it's still brewing, honestly, the next steps of this. But I feel really grateful to be in touch with so many people who I met at this conference, and
Yep.
to keep checking in on their progress and what they're doing, and really just how we can continue to support one another. Because to watch that take place, the network of 90 to 400 individuals being aware of one another, there was this innate collaboration that was just taking place, which everybody saw, like, okay, cool, you're doing reefs, well, I'm doing seaweed farming, and we're looking at where the shark nets are coming into play here and how to up the shark populations, because they're a vital component of healthy ecosystems
Mm-hmm.
and reefs and
That's
whatnot. So
that's the beauty right there. And I feel like at our last event, just for context for people, me and Nichelle threw an event last summer, probably about 9-10 months ago. It's called Rhythmic Ecosystems, and it incorporated hip hop. We had a freestyle therapy cipher. We had some ecology learning. I did a foraging talk. We had people planting some plants and some trees, and it was
we had
really
a
amazing.
talent
I mean,
show
like,
by a summer camp.
say again?
We had the talent show by the East Bay Regional Environmental Summer Camp. This group of 12 to 15-year-olds, I think.
Yeah, through
Came
Hip
and
Hop
did,
for Change.
yeah, they came and did performances, dance and rap and spoken word that were centered around climate change and ecology. Just
That was fun.
amazing.
And it was amazing, all the different communities that came together for that. And then, like, the thing that we got out of it when we were debriefing after, or the thing that I really remember from it, is like, you don't know what you're exactly creating. I mean, like, there's definitely an impact that you have on the land of, like, planting some stuff and people meeting each other and all that. But that's the big takeaway, is that people could be making connections with each other that will last a lifetime. That
Yeah.
synergy between two people could become that next thing that, like, really, really takes this regenerative movement to the next level.
Yeah.
And that magic that can happen when you just bring people together who are of somewhat like-mindedness, that's phenomenal. So I love that vision of, like, bringing the partying and productivity together. I don't remember exactly how you put it, but
Party for the purpose of progress.
party for the purpose of progress. That's really good.
Yeah.
3 Ps. That's beautiful. And I love that vision of people coming to the ocean together to, like, mindfully engage
Yeah.
in that way. And I know that you have a lot of things in the works around bringing people together on the virtual platforms for now, to
Mm-hmm.
do some self-empowerment work. And I'm going to set you up in just a minute to lead people who are on the call live through some of those exercises, or one of those exercises at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, where can people find you if they want to network with you and be a part of that?
Yeah. So there are a couple places, and yes, these platforms are still in development, like as things are launching and whatnot. But there's a Change the Lights Facebook page, which you can go to and connect with me there. There's also a Change the Lights Instagram. It's change_the_lights. And those are two platforms that you can definitely reach me at in terms of being connected to. They're called Spark events. So the online workshops that we're going to be having, and really diving deep into some of this subject matter. Cool. To do that. And yeah, obviously you can also get in touch with me on Facebook, just as Nichelle Lyster, if all else fails as well.
All right. This video might have a long tail on it, so maybe a lot of people will find this later on, and then we'll be hitting you up on Facebook. But
yeah,
go to the IG or the FB. I just put it into the chat there so people can find you. Cool. And then last question before we kind of jump into the experiential part. Is there anything that you're doing right now that feels like ecotherapy to you, or just feels therapeutic in general to you? Like, whether it's taking a walk, something simple like that, actually going to therapy, any kind of food, or anything that feels really nourishing for you right now.
Such a good question. One, walks for sure have been super helpful. One, because it feels like I can get moving. And then I can really just kind of be outside and watching plants and flowers. And it's been such a gorgeous spring. Like I've been really amazed at all the different plants and flowers and things in bloom. I've been seeing butterflies flying around. But I would say that one of the things that's been really helpful for me, in addition to drinking a lot of water, is I went to the ocean recently, and this again is a place where I really find my deep stillness. And I was in the water, and I have such a deep like reverence and appreciation for the ocean, but oftentimes I really feel very inadequate of this planet, you know, and I think that might have to do with the storyline of being a parasite or just not being kind of at one with the nature around us. But after that swim, I really recognized that I am not only worthy of this ocean, but I am the partner of it. And that was a really different perspective that I held. And that felt like a real ecotherapy moment where, you know, as much as we want to save the world, this world is a living, breathing entity just like we are. And it's going through its own cycles and evolutions. And I think a part of my evolution is understanding that I am just as beautiful, just as profound, and just as full of creation as this planet itself. And so I really felt like I found a mirror in the ocean and in this beauty that I perceive in this planet. And that was a pretty incredible moment. It's helped me kind of blow past some of the smaller thinking, you know, the doubts and the worries, and really step up and be who I am.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. I love that story. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, what I hear in that is feeling like not being worthy of the ocean, almost like you're lesser than. And then kind of having this realization of like, no, like we're right here. Like not better than, not lesser than, but equal.
Yeah.
And I think from that position is where we actually are able to be supportive.
Yeah.
You know, like Ram Dass would always talk about when you kind of get in this position of being the helper, you create a helpee and you create this disconnect with the person. And from that disconnect, you're not really able to be of any service.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you had that kind of a moment with the ocean where it's like no lesser, no better, just, you know, equals, connected.
Totally. Yeah, you said that so well. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Props to Ram Dass, RIP.
Props.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And you wanted to lead us through a bit of a visualization exercise or an affirmation exercise. You want to explain it?
Yeah. So this could probably go a couple ways, but what I'm feeling called to, just based on all the stuff that we've just been talking about, is sharing a practice with you that a good friend of both Brian's and I's has named it tea time. But it's this practice of visioning and really embodying the vision by taking an experience or something that you really want to see happen in your life or in the world, and speaking about it as if it already has. And this, for me and for a lot of people that I've shared this with, it's a really amazing experience of feeling the truth of what that would be like to have happen and to experience. And so this, you know, this is something that Brian and I did a couple of days ago, where it's like, you know, if I'm feeling like I want to have more confidence in launching these social media platforms, I can spend a couple minutes and say like, you know, I'm really feeling at ease because after I've launched these social media platforms and I've seen them land in a way that feels really meaningful to me and to other people, there's such a relaxation in my body. And I feel so grateful for having gone through the process of nerves and questioning, but have found myself persevering through that to pull the trigger and launch all these different things I've been working on. And it was so great to just watch it turn out really, really well. So taking a small moment like that and putting yourself in the feeling state of being on the other side of it, I think really grounds us in being more attuned to what we want to have happen, rather than so swept up in what we're nervous about happening or what we fear will happen. And again, it's kind of like where the attention goes, energy flows, or, the race car driver coaching saying, never look at the wall, because where you're looking, you're going to go. So that is a practice for me that has been instrumental in my life. But I was thinking that maybe, because we're talking a lot about our planet and these oceans, that maybe we can spend this time in a little bit of a guided visualization by me of what it might look like to see this planet doing really well and us doing really well. And maybe that can give us a little bit of inspiration as we're going through this time of a lot of unknowns, that there's kind of a guiding light of where we would like to see our society and our relationship to the world go.
Wonderful. So you're going to start that visualization, and I would say maybe about 7 minutes or so. Can we get it in like that?
Yeah.
All right, wonderful. I want to leave a little bit of time for Q&A and all that at the end, and also just have time to say bye to everybody and give a couple of other offerings before we go.
Cool.
All right. Take it away.
Cool. Okay. So just take a second to get a bit comfier and relaxed, and maybe close your eyes if you like. And maybe take a moment to envision yourself at a place in nature that you really connect to. So whether that's at the beach with your feet covered in sand and a breeze blowing in your hair, or if it's in the stillness of trees in a forest where birds are singing, or you hear the soft crackle of leaves and movement in the trees. And just take a couple deep breaths. And remember that all these places exist right now. All over the world, there's wind blowing among many, many trees, many waves crashing and falling. And so now I'm going to put myself maybe 5 years down the line, so 2025. I'm going to root down and show up on May 27th, 2025. And maybe I'm talking to Brian and some of you or another group of people, and just being amazed at how well I've seen things turn out. It was a really confusing time in a lot of ways. There was so much unknowns that were happening and have happened in the last few years. But, I wished for so long to see the oceans as clean as they are right now, and to see such a resurgence of life within them. I mean, whale populations have come back, and some of them have even surpassed the populations that we saw 100 years ago. I've seen so many life forms inhabit the spaces that they originally called home, and I've seen so many people find new relationships to the ocean that I feel like not only serve the ocean, but are inherently serving the benefit of their own lives and the richness that they experience on a daily basis. And the clarity of the water is pristine. I remember back in the day when in the Bay Area, the bay was so murky and clouded and full of tires and trash. And I used to wish I could have seen it back in the day, because I could imagine how beautiful it would be. And to look at this water now and to see the sand at the bottom and to see fish swimming through the water, and to see all the little crabs crawling around the beach, and just the clarity that is traveling through these waters is so special to see. And I know that a lot of people are able to resource their food from this water in a healthy way. And that's doing a lot for the communities in the Bay Area as well, just to have a deeper connection to their food and resources, and sharing it with one another. And, there's just been such an amazing abundance of effort put back into this earth, and a change in our industries that have really exemplified taking from it to just being a part of it. And it's been something that when I go to sleep at night, I'm just kind of glowing about. It feels very calming to know and to see with my own eyes this earth flourishing. And I see how much it's taking us with it, how well we're doing, because this earth is doing so well. And there's something kind of amazing about the new opportunities that we're having because of the health of this planet, and how many innovations are taking place within our societies that are conducive of it. And it's, again, just another Star Trek, Star Wars kind of excitement, where things that we have only dreamed about are now coming to fruition in the lives that we lead every day. And it is feeling like this heaven on earth, or really just earth on earth experience. And that's something that I've been so excited not only to be a part of, but to watch unfold over these last 5 years. And, the amount of food that people are getting from the gardens outside their house, the amount of trees that have been planted worldwide has been staggering. And the amount of people who are able to live their lives in not only connection to this earth, but in freedom in themselves. Because this earth gives us to us freely. And we're starting to give back in the same way. So I feel just very honored to be here, to be among all of these people on the planet right now. And I'm excited for the next 5 years to see how this not only continues to grow in the world, but in ourselves. So as I stand here with my feet in the sand and listening to the ocean move, and appreciate that this ocean has never stopped moving, I send a little wave of gratitude to each corner of the planet. You can just feel a cleaner breeze move among it. So maybe just take a moment to feel what that would feel like in you, what it would look like in your eye to see this world healthy, thriving. Maybe taking a really good deep breath. And thank you for traveling with me.
Thank you. That was wonderful. I went under the spell of feeling those breezes and being amongst the trees, and it was really cool when you first started it. Like, you said something about a breeze, and it had this nice gust come through my window, and it's really hot in my room, so it felt great.
So
that was right on. And what I love about that is the bigger view. There's exercises like that around manifesting things for our personal lives that use very similar principles of feeling it as if it's already happened.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's often used for people to like become filthy rich, or, get the love of their life, which, good things, no judgment on that. But I love the bigger scope of it being around planetary regeneration and ocean regeneration, and like starting to think in those terms, because that's our true wealth. So I love that exercise tapped into that. So yeah, I'm really excited for you to get these like longer form exercises like that going, so people can participate and be a part of that. So they can follow you on Instagram, Facebook, and be part of those announcements as they come up, I propose.
Definitely. Yeah, I know words are hard today.
Yeah, often.
Yeah, no, but that's been true for me too. I've been kind of tapped into that process of like manifesting, and I kept thinking like, man, like, I see this happen in my personal life, those kind of elements that are specific to me. I was like, we can do this on a
100%.
global scale, which I'm pumped for.
100%. And I wanted to open it up. We got about 8 minutes left. If anyone had any questions for Nichelle, any comments on that exercise we just did, if anyone wanted to share anything, floor is open for that. Got a few people with us. So if anybody wanted to share, ask a question, you can either type it into the chat or you can unmute yourself and come on. So either one of those ways work. If you feel shy, that's okay. Pushing through shyness is a great exercise. And if not, that invitation remains open as we talk and close things out. So any questions, any comments y'all want to come through with, you're welcome to do that. But yeah, let's see. I have a few offerings I was going to give. Do you have any parting words on anything that you wanted to share that you didn't get to? I know that we could talk for hours.
Sorry. Yeah. Any parting words? I would say just like take some time to look at the storyline of your life, or of the collective lives, and yeah, to appreciate that we really do have authorship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Beautifully summed up, beautifully wrapped up, kind of how we started. That story is so key, and we are part of history and we're writing it. So I love being a part of it with you and being able to be on each other's team. And I feel like even if we're, miles and miles away from each other, at some point in the future, we'll still be connected and be working on this stuff and talking this stuff out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
I really appreciate you having me on. It was fun to just say yes, jump in, see what happened, and sweet chat, like, really nice. And I'm also really grateful for each one of you who sat with us and, tuned in and hopefully felt something that resonated with you in your world and the way that you show up in it.
100%. Yeah. Many thanks to everybody for showing up. And yeah, we're doing this every single week. And like I said at the beginning, I know some of y'all logged on late, but Nichelle agreed to do this about 15 minutes before we started because our originally scheduled programming was not happening. Last minute, my guest had to cancel due to some internet connectivity issues. So it's really amazing to get to just improv this show that we were planning to do next week, just a week early. So that worked out really well.
The time is now.
Yeah, couldn't have been any better, I don't think. So that's wonderful. And we're recording, so this will go up on YouTube if anyone wants to check it out or recommend it to friends. I think there's a lot of great nuggets of wisdom and inspiration in here, and God knows we need that.
Amen.
So yeah, I will do a couple little product placements for myself, which is I am starting up something really exciting, which is getting back into doing some foraging classes in person. Dun, dun, dun. So I will be offering once a week foraging classes. It's going to be 3 to 4 people max. We're going to be properly spaced. We're going to not be touching each other, sharing food or anything. But we're going to be learning 15 to 20 different plant species around the neighborhood, around Berkeley. And I know we have a lot of different people from different parts of the world who tune into this at this point, but if you're around the Bay Area and want to be a part of some of those classes, they're coming up, and I got my website all set up to do scheduling right now. So I'm going to type that into the chat for people and share it with your friends. I think this foraging knowledge is just insanely relevant right now. And will continue to be relevant, always was relevant, but it's just continuing to grow. So definitely encourage people to hop on that. And we also have a product at my store now on my Healing Ecosystems page. This is a first of its kind. I talked about it a bit in last week's episode. It's a tincture of a certain plant called Albizia julibriscens. That's a proven antidepressant, anti-anxiety tincture. And so it's very natural, very light, very easy on the system, and has a lot of great, promising qualities for being able to help people with anxiety, depression, feelings of stress, and just something I wanted to share with a greater community. One of my herbalist friends makes this locally, and she like sources it on certain times and like uses the moons to brew it. So she's very, very mindful about how she brews her tinctures, and just an amazing product. And it really plays into being something that's in the ecotherapy toolkit of something that can really help us through tough times and really support us in a more natural way than perhaps a pharmaceutical would. Not to say that those aren't appropriate at times. But yeah, that's also at healingecosystemscom / I believe it's shop. So y'all can check that out. It helps to support the show as well. We're kind of sponsored by these products at this point. But that always helps to be able to upgrade our equipment. So thanks for all that. And if there are no closing questions or comments, I will begin to say bye to everybody. And yeah, Nichelle, thank you for being on again. I really appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun and always my pleasure.
Heck yeah. And looking forward to playing some music with you, and maybe we'll go on some live streams at some point to share some of our music.
Let's definitely do that.
Yeah. One thing y'all don't know about Nichelle yet is that she's an amazing, amazing singer and musician, and we have some awesome collaborative jam sessions that there will be more of coming up. So stay connected with us. We appreciate all of you. And we will be back next week with a new guest. We'll have to refigure the whole thing, but we might be able to get the person I was going to have on this week, Becky Bayer, for next week. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thank you, Nichelle, and happy peaceful harvesting to everybody. Thank you.